Hello everyone, my name is Alicia Aurora and I'm a 15-year-old student and I'm currently researching at MIT's AI lab to diagnose mental illness. I am beyond excited to be facilitating today's Unsung Heroes in Science sponsored by Johnson & Johnson as part of Take Our Kids to Work Day. We're going to spend the next 20 minutes hearing from panelists that have led inspiring careers in science before opening it up to your questions. I would like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of all the lands that we are on today. While we meet today on a virtual platform, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the land which we each call home in Canada. As we gather today on these lands, we are in solidarity with our Indigenous brothers, sisters, two-spirited peoples, and family to honor and respect four directions: lands, waters, plants, animals, and ancestors that walked before us, and all of the wonderful elements of creation that exist. And as we reflect on the historical and ongoing relationship between Canada's education system and Indigenous peoples, we are highly aware of how much work there is to do to repair the relationship with Indigenous students, parents, families, and communities. We recognize the violation of many treaties by the Government of Canada and the impact of colonialism, including the legacy of the residential schools and the 60s sweep, have resulted in lasting harms, intergenerational trauma, and ongoing injustices to the Indigenous peoples. We acknowledge our responsibilities as settlers on these traditional territories and as a learning organization working in and with the public education sector. We reaffirm our commitment to improve our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures, and to take concrete actions as identified in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada's 2015 report. From coast to coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people who call this nation home. Today, we are thrilled to have with us Swati Trivedi, Manager of Critical Affairs at Johnson & Johnson, and Dr. Kivane Enrique Luco, Vice President of Canadian Black Scientists Network and Professor of Biochemistry, Microbiology, and Immunology at the University of Saskatchewan. Wow. Welcome. Would everyone like to say hello and let us know where we are all calling in from? We can start with you, Dr. Luco.
Hello, everyone. I'm so thrilled to be part of this show today. So happy because it's just so close to my heart when it comes to mentorship and everything. I'm Eric Luco, Kivane Eric Luco, and I'm at the University of Saskatchewan, as Alicia said. And I'm here to answer all your questions and for you to learn about my journey.
Swati.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Swati Trivedi. As Alicia mentioned, I'm coming to you from Toronto and looking forward to some fun and tough questions.
Awesome. Well, let's start with the question for Swati. Swati, your experience is extensive and it spanned from Mumbai to Toronto. What would you tell a student who is interested in a career in the sciences but doesn't quite know where to start?
Thanks. That's a great question. I, as a person who works in science, I already love it that you have an initial interest in the sciences. I have two recommendations for you. First one, keep your options open. You are right now learning more and more about science. Continue to learn more as you explore in-depth knowledge within the components of science, chemistry, physics, biology. As you go through it, you will identify topics that interest you. You will want to learn more about it and the love will come back to you. You might perform much better in your assessments and different experiences. Second thing, do what you are doing right now. You are making an effort in learning about careers of other people. Continue to do more of this so you will get a very good idea of the variety of ranges that people in sciences can have.
Awesome. Could not agree more. Now, the next question I have for you, Swati, is what really is the future of careers in science?
Thank you, Alicia. I really think that this question will, the answer to this question will continue to evolve. Back when I was in the 9th grade, when we were looking at futures in sciences, what I knew was upcoming medical sciences were emerging, personalized therapeutic medicine was emerging, and some advances in technology were coming about. I think some of those nuances continue to remain, and as students continue to learn more about, you will see from the emerging news around you what continues to be available in the future as well.
That's incredible. Now moving on to Dr. Luco, I first want to ask you the same question. What is the futures of career in science, and what do you really think that is?
The future of career in science is quite bright. It's very bright. As Swati said, all you have to do is just believe in yourself. You really have to believe in yourself, believe in what you do. Because even Alicia is there, is almost like a role model to some of the kids watching. So you really have to believe in yourself, and the future is bright. You are the leaders of tomorrow. We are just here just to help you get there, So you just have to keep climbing that ladder like that, and never give up. Have a dream, aim high, and never give up on it. You look at the world around us, it's changing every single day. It's changing because of research and development, right? And who is going to do that tomorrow? It's going to be you, leaders like you, young leaders like you. They're going to make that change tomorrow. Who knows what Alicia is going to come up with? Okay.
That's amazing. Thank you. And the second question I have for you, Dr. Luco, is a bit about your journey and experience. What challenges have you faced in pursuing a career in science? And you already mentioned some words of advice, but what are some other words of advice or words of encouragement you would like to share with students?
Okay, let me start with my journey briefly. I was born in Cameroon, in Central Africa or West Africa, and I got a scholarship to go to the UK. And in the UK, I had a scholarship to study biochemistry and French, so 2 degrees. Left from there, then I went to University of Montreal, where I first did a master's in technical translation using the French part of my degree. And then after that, I went to the same university and did a master's in biochemistry. Challenge number 1 is that I did the technical translation first, and the same university I wanted to move to do biochemistry. And they didn't think that you could move from languages to sciences. I had to prove that I have the backgrounds in sciences, number 1. Second challenge was to get into biochemistry and become a researcher. The first thing you need a supervisor. And the first challenge is to find that person that will believe in you. You've been away from that field for 4 years, so you need that person that will believe in you. And that's why this program again itself is very important, because it's about mentorship. You go around and you don't give up. You go from office to office, lab to lab, and you finally find that person that looks at you and says, yes, you've been away for 4 years, but I'm going to give you a chance. So that was Michel Poitier. So he took me in his lab. That was the first challenge. Then I went through that, finished my master's, did my PhD, then decided then to do my postdoctoral studies. That was the second challenge. I went to Harvard. But when I went to Harvard University to start over there, second challenge is that my family was not with me. So I decided now to move back to McGill. So the second challenge is that nobody advised me to leave. Because, oh, you're at Harvard, why would you leave Harvard? But you still have to believe in yourself. That's the second challenge. I went back to McGill, started a career there, but my research, the research that I do today on breast cancer, it all was guided by that change that I made. If I didn't move from Harvard to Montreal, I wouldn't have had this new interest in breast cancer research, which is the focus of my research today.
Wow, that is absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for sharing, Dr. Luco. It's so inspiring to hear. I want to take, before we move on to one more question for our panel, I would love to share a bit more about myself and my research and what's really inspired me to pursue it, similar to Dr. Luco. So personally for me, my work specifically focuses on mental health and research around suicide prevention. I lost a student in my school to suicide. He suicided 13 minutes after tweeting about feeling lonely. And that for me was a really pivotal moment because when I really thought about it, I thought, what if there was someone who saw his tweet or post 10 minutes or a couple minutes before and maybe have taken some action? What if there was still some possibility of him being alive? And that was really the moment for me where I realized that technology was an answer. I had to do something about it because social media companies weren't and governments weren't. So I set out to learn all about artificial intelligence, which is a technology, and it's a tool that's being used, and it's such an amazing technology. And I spent a couple months learning to really set out to build a model to detect suicidal ideation in social media content. Now, it might seem kind of complex, but it's really not that complex. If someone posts something about them feeling lonely, what can we do to identify them needing support, and how can we give them that support? And that's really what my work has been centered around. And right now, I've been working with Microsoft and with social media platforms to actually implement this model to save lives. Because when I really think about, us as a generation, youth and myself and all of you watching today, we may just be 10% of today, but we are 100% of tomorrow, like both Swati and Dr. Luco mentioned. If we don't have access to simple mental health supports, and if we're not, how do we expect us to be the future leaders and change makers if we don't have access to those supports? That's why it's really important to me to focus on better supporting youth mental health and prevent suicide because, I think each life is an important life. And that's kind of been the work I've been doing, leveraging technology to make a difference. And I'm sure that all of you, find a problem you're interested in, find an area you're interested in, can also make an impact to hopefully impact 1 billion people. So moving on to the next question, because time is really flying, I would like to ask one more question to both of our panelists before we go to the student questions. Collaboration is one of the 6 global competencies. How often do you encounter this skill in your day-to-day work? And let's start with Dr. Luco.
Collaboration is key, right? But you're talking about global competency, right? So we are all here trying to build that global citizenship, right? Collaboration is just one of the 6 competencies that you have: critical thinking, creativity, communication. You have a character. You have citizenship. So all of those are part of that global competence. In terms of collaboration, my work, the work that I do, cannot go ahead without collaboration. I do research. I do breast cancer research. I don't know everything about breast cancer research. So I design an experiment, and for me to complete that experiment, I will need to contact a colleague who has a technique that I don't have, and they will do that for me. And I even do that within my lab, where I have maybe 6, 7 students. Even though they learned from me, but they all develop techniques that they are better at. So they end up collaborating even within the lab. I'm in the cancer cluster here, and the whole idea of setting up this cluster is to have researchers that are all working in cancer to be in this open space concept so that they'll be able to collaborate easily. Now, going back now to the global competency, the whole idea about global citizenship, the more you collaborate, the more there is inclusion, because you are forced to collaborate with people that have techniques that you don't have. So you sort of foster inclusivity by collaborating. So you cannot do research without collaboration. I had to travel to Toronto to a big lab there to learn a new technique so I can come to my lab and teach them that technique. But we still continue. I'm still collaborating with that same lab. So collaboration is important, even at the level of school, doing homework. you sit together, 6 of you doing homework, that's already collaboration there. You learn from each other. And that's the advice I give all the 9th graders out there, that you have to sit and work as a group. You don't wait for your teacher or professor to say, okay, form this group. Form group with other friends. Look for those that, because you can be inspired by your classmate. You can have a classmate there who you look up to and you want to go to him and learn more. So collaboration is very, very important, and it's a very, very one of the most important competencies globally. Thank you.
Amazing. And I mean, you said it, Dr. Luco, collaboration is really instilled from a young age. So now moving on to you, Swati.
Yes, it's something that I do every day in my current job. So right now in Johnson & Johnson, I work in clinical research where I'm supporting the research for the use of our medical device products. And no man is an island. We cannot do that without working together with the scientists in research and development, or the product support team, supply chain team within Johnson & Johnson across different countries, and also with scientists like Dr. Luco here. So collaboration across countries and boundaries is a day-to-day reality for us.
Awesome. Well, I think it's now time for, thank you so much, panel. I think it's now time for the remainder of the session, where we're going to turn to our student participants to ask questions. And the first question, so I'm not sure who it's from, but it's from a student, and the question is, what inspired you to pursue a career in science? Let's start with you, Swati.
Sure. It's really what you feel most passionate about at a young age, at the age in which the audience is right now. I wanted to learn about medicine. I felt like I wanted to help people like my family. When I saw that my family, they went to a doctor, I felt like I wanted to be someone who could be like a healthcare professional. And so I felt very strongly about it enough to pursue the steps and then get myself into medical school. Then I felt that now I want a challenge. I want to become a cancer doctor. So I spoke with people and I got inspired and I said, this is what I want to do. So I applied and I started into a specialty for cancer medicine. And again, you know, a few more years went by and I already had that knowledge, and something else sparked my interest. And I felt, you know what, I can sit as a doctor and treat one patient every time, or I can perhaps think about how to create a healthcare system, have hospitals which provide more accessibility for cancer care for people such as in rural areas. So that led me to the next step. I had to do more training. So the short answer to this wonderful question is you have your interests, but also things that inspire and motivate you, you know, that will make you do hard work. It is a lot of hard work in whatever step you do. So there has to be something that helps you wake up in the morning and feel determined that, yes, I want to do this.
That's incredible. Thank you so much. Now on to you, Dr. Luco.
So yeah, so when I was like around, I think maybe I'll say grade 7 or 8 or something like that, I really didn't know what I was good at again until maybe one of the teachers pointed out that, oh, I had my marks and I realized, oh, I scored so well in physics. I just didn't know. I didn't know I was good at it compared to maybe other students. So that's when I developed that interest in science. I realized that, oh, this is my thing. But at the same time, I just realized that I was not terribly into literature, like some of my other friends. So that's how I got drawn into sciences. And just like Swati there, also I was thinking in terms of medicine. But since my dad is a police officer, my dream has always been to become a military doctor. So if you ask me that, what do you want to be? Okay, the first part was to become a pilot, aeronautics from the physics. But later I realized that, no, I would like to be a military doctor, just because I just wanted to be able to dress up like a military doctor like a military person, to become a doctor. I'm wearing all white. Anyway, so then I got a scholarship to go to the UK. Then they gave me these 2 scholarships. And as I told you, I went to Montreal, still had double degrees. But I realized that biochemistry, which I did from bachelor's, master's, and PhD, I found it very, very interesting. And I started being driven by my curiosity, because we are here actually to ignite that curiosity in the students. You want to ignite that. So I started being driven by my curiosity, and it happens when you do research. When you have any good data, it pushes you to do more, and before you know it, you are spending a lot of time in the lab just being driven. You want to see the end of it. So yeah, so I got inspired by one teacher a long time ago when I was like 13, and it stayed that way up to today. Thank you.
Amazing. I love your point on curiosity. And to the next question, it's a great question. What does a typical work day look like for both of you? And Dr. Luco, you can start.
So my typical, I'm wearing so many hats now, but my typical day is that I do teach. I teach like 2 or 3 times a week. And I teach the biochemistry of cancer, which is an original course that I developed here. I think it's the only one even in Canada. The biochemistry of cancer, and then the biochemistry of vitamins also, and then diseases. So that's what I do when I teach. But other than that, when I come to my office, when I come in the morning, I want to go to the lab also to see how things are going, see how the students are doing, whether they have any questions for me, how the projects are going. So I go to the lab, then I come back to my office, and I have all the various meetings that we have to go through. But my passion, number one, is the lab. It's the lab that drives me. That's that curiosity keeps coming, because when you see data, you want to see what's coming up next or the next day. So it's office, lab, teaching, and then all the various meetings that I do.
Amazing. Now on to you, Swati.
Thank you. For me, my day starts with 30 minutes of thinking time for myself. So I usually tend to, put down my thoughts, priorities. Sometimes I challenge myself in, what could happen better in an ideal state. Not always everything is possible, but I find that the early morning start of the day almost sets your intention for that day or even the next few days. So carving around an initial 20 to 30 minutes. After that, there will be, a variety of meetings, usually on some of the clinical research that I support through my job. Sometimes it's on things which are going right now. Sometimes it's more focusing about future product development and research, and with a variety of different people. I do try to dedicate time on my daily calendar to read through science. I think we spoke about how it's continuously evolving. And even though I focus on like a small niche of science, I feel like every day there is new information that is being shared, and scientists are learning more and more even now. So I have to devote some time every day to learn about it. Forever a student when you are in science.
I love that. I think that, you both have such jam-packed days. On to the next question. So a question from a student named Emma. What are some challenges you faced in your career, and how strong was your support system?
Challenges. When you have a career like mine, and you've studied all your life, and it's a very, very long time, right, to have a PhD, because from a PhD to become a researcher, after your PhD, you still have to do like 4, 5, 6 years before you can apply to become a professor. So you go through all that process, but you don't have sufficient training maybe in teaching. You don't have sufficient training in writing grant application. So all those things are things that once you have that job, you have to face. On the job training, you have to learn how to teach, because 300 students are out there, you have to teach them. You have the knowledge, right? But you have to learn how to, you have to teach them. But But the support system that we have in most universities, and in this university in particular that I know, is that we have workshops all the time to help new lecturers, also new professors, to help them learn the various teaching techniques and all of that. So that's very, very helpful. At the departmental or even the collegial level also, we write grants that we submit to national agencies. But the university also supports us with money, like startup funds, so that we can start that lab going. So we have challenges when it comes to writing the grants, because those national grants, sometimes the success rate is just like 10%. And most of those grants are quite good, but they just give to 10%. So those are the major challenges that I will face as a researcher and as a scientist, but I have a lot of support coming from the university and from the college, because they give you a lot of funding just so that you can start your research project while waiting for that major grant. That's
incredible. So now on to you, Swati.
For me, the biggest challenge I faced in my career so far was I was ready to submit some research that I had worked 2 years on, and my professor reviewed it and said, "I'm sorry, this does not look good. I'm not going to sign off on it." And I feel like that was a very, very big, shock for me. And I took it as a challenge that instead of withdrawing and saying, "No, thank you, I will come back to you after 1 year," I took it up as a challenge, and over a period of 3 to 4 days, I resolved the questions. I, attended to the concerns raised by my professor and went back to the professor, and I got alignment and his signature approval, and I could receive, the recommendation from that work. So don't, you will face challenges at many times. Don't hesitate, and you can fight through it.
Mm-hmm. And, as you both said it, failing is a part of success. We need to fail in order to learn and grow. But that's going to be a wrap for today. Thank you to everyone for all your participation. And big thanks to our panelists, Swati and Dr. Luco. And big thanks to all of the students participating and for your amazing questions. Diversity truly drives innovation, and it is clear that you belong here. We hope that today has inspired you to explore science in your own future. The recording of this session will be available later today on the Learning Partnerships YouTube page, and you'll receive it along with the survey link via email tomorrow. Don't forget to fill out our survey for your chance at winning one of 7 $100 gift cards. Amazing. Thanks again, and have a great Take Our Kids to Work day.
Thanks, everyone.